I was looking for some late 1990s Chateau Moussards because my girlfriend's family it's coming up to Christmas time,
right?
And the way we're putting Christ back into Christmas in the UK is by people buying one another gifts, as we often do. And I'm in my girlfriend's family. It's my first Christmas with them.
Right.
Asking her, what should we get Riley? What should we get Riley? Maybe we could get him this, like, these gubbins or this mishigas or some socks and so on.
Sure.
Or like a tea cozy. And my girlfriend has said, no, just get him wine, please. All he wants is wine. And they're like, no, that's boring. We don't want to get him. No, just get him wine.
So are you looking for like specific wines that would be good gifts for yourself? Is that the idea?
Yes, I am doing my own Christmas, because I also don't trust anyone else to pick a wine.
The only opinion that I have about wine is that I was once going to start a two-prov group called Walrus Sommelier. And
really?
It never got off the ground. But
is it a walrus that is a sommelier, or are they sommeliers for walruses?
Ooh.
Yes.
So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the Worst of All Possible Worlds, the first and only podcast that is a sommelier for a walrus. I'm the worst of all possible AJs.
I'm the worst of all possible Bryans.
And I'm the worst of all possible Joshes. And we are thrilled today to have a very special guest with us. As you may have heard while we were talking about wine, I am today recording in London with my counterparts, Brian and AJ, over stateside. And joining me in London, I have the host, one of the what, 5 co-hosts?
One of the 5
of Trashfuture, Riley Quinn. Riley, hello.
Hello, it's a joy to be here. It's been a long time coming, and I am thrilled at the topic, I gotta say.
Yes.
Late 1990s Chateau Moussards. Let's talk about it. How come in 1998 it was a Sanso dominant blend?
Right.
When it's been mostly the sort of Bordeaux classics of Cab Sauv, Merlot, and Cab Franc in previous years? Why is the Bekaa Valley so particularly good for like mimicking that kind of climate, but also south of France grapes?
I am always asking these questions.
What I really like about the late 90s wines is the earth tones and the tannins.
Yeah, keep going.
Well, that's it, really, because there's not much more to say other than, the tannins really inform the earth tones and give them an oaky sort of afterburn.
An afterburn,
buttery,
Does the wine go much
buttery
faster?
Accelerant.
Buttery accelerant is the worst phrase I've ever heard.
Have you drifted out of talking about wine and drifted into reading from the Anarchist Cookbook?
No, we actually are not here to talk about wine.
What?
So I know, I'm sorry. I'm springing it on you.
Yes, alcohol is prohibited.
We're doing a hard pivot
going
to something that I know is also a big favorite topic of yours, Riley, which is to say the upcoming Saudi mega development NEOM and its many projects. And specifically what we're going to be looking at today is all of the propaganda that is being generated by the regime to support the development of this new project. Because obviously every week on this show, we do case studies in the pop culture of a dying empire. And this week, we're looking at an empire that is ascendant in some ways.
But it sees its death on the horizon.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And is using the resources of a number of dying empires, specifically the American and British empires, to forward its own ambitions. So, Riley, when we were talking about you coming on the show, we bounced around a few ideas, and then I pitched you on, hey, do you want to come on and like talk about these weird YouTube videos about NEOM? And I think the reply was an all caps yes.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If anyone ever asks me, Riley, do you want to talk about NEOM?
Yeah.
I will do it for as long until what has happened before is at like tables and so on, social events. I have sort of been nudged by friends, partners, and so on into shutting the fuck up about NEOM.
Right.
So I'm very pleased that we don't have to do that now.
No, we don't. What we did was we put together a playlist of a number of YouTube videos. So yes, this is going to be one of those episodes, folks. Buckle in.
Welcome to Garbage Present.
That's right. That's right. We're here. And
Someone should make that show.
yeah, well, it could be huge.
There is some breaking NEOM news.
There is.
Yes.
Oh, we should open with that probably
A
then.
fifth region has just broken containment and been announced.
Shit.
No. Oh,
So-
no.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's like everyone know. Like a lot of people. Okay. Number one of
Yes.
my main bugbears about NEOM, probably the worst thing about NEOM,
Yes.
is
Yes.
that most people confuse NEOM, the region of Saudi Arabia, with the line.
Oh,
just
not me.
one of
not
many.
me. Not me.
One
No.
of many exciting developments
Right.
in NEOM.
Right.
But there is a new region announced called Leja, which, unlike the other regions, appears to just have luxury hotels in it, as opposed to the others, which have luxury hotels as well as high-end shopping and dining.
Gotcha. Okay, so
Yes.
we will, of course, be covering the other regions momentarily. But I guess before we get there, why don't you tell us a little bit about Leja, this fifth exciting, very real region?
The world's first city that's made entirely out of hotels.
Well, no, you've all played Monopoly, right? They finally
course.
made Monopoly
Yeah,
real.
right.
Yeah,
They
look,
got their little red building. Yeah.
What is the most wealthy Monopoly board? It's where every hotel is
Right.
on every single street.
That's right.
This is the Monopoly board of all hotels.
Very good.
Oh no, the top hat and the iron have just been thrown in jail for crimes against the caliphate. This is
So, basically, the fifth region features a number of hotels, one of which is entirely made of mirrors.
What are you talking about? What is this obsession with mirrors? They're
mirrors.
in the desert. They're gonna light everything on fire.
Yeah, but have you ever considered that it's going to look sick?
I did not consider how
Are
sick it
the
was gonna look.
interiors also mirrors? Is it mirrors all over every surface forever?
Unclear at this time.
There is a reality show on Netflix called World's Most Extraordinary Homes that is hosted by two Brits who hate each other, and like the tension between them is so palpable and
hell
so thrilling. But one of the things is they always go to these houses and they're just covered in these mirrors. It seems to be like this architectural trend that's been going on in the last 10 or so years. The best part about that is that the actual architect that they have on set to actually give architectural critiques or whatever cannot draw to save his life, and he
nice.
always insists on drawing the houses, but it looks like a 6-year-old because he uses crayon.
That's awesome.
It is an
So
incredible
you're saying they
watch.
got the Wyatt Koch architect?
Yeah, exactly.
They did.
These drawings are useful in the boardroom.
That's why the mirrors are there. They're for the discotheque.
For the discoteca, right?
Right.
So, can I tell you about Leja?
Please.
So it's built into a beautiful unspoiled valley in
Right.
this remote area of the country.
We're gonna spoil it.
We're gonna spoil it with some mirror hotels. We're gonna blind every bird.
Yeah.
So they say the three architects have been tapped to design 3 luxury high-end boutique hotels for the region, which again, none of the renderings of the hotels, this is true for every region of NEOM, none of the renderings of the hotels and buildings show any of how you get there.
Right.
It's just a hotel in the desert with no roads, no trains. Where are the staff going to live? How are they going to get in? Unclear.
Oh, very easily, I imagine.
There'll be little cells in the basement, and that's no sunlight, and that's where they'll live.
It's basically and we'll sort of get more into this as we go, because I think some people listening are like, what's NEOM? It's a region, it's cities. Right. There are some Google really good ads that say you should Google NEOM.
You should.
Which is very funny because there's also a skincare and wellness brand in the UK called NEOM. That is definitely always did they not check before they named it?
And just to be very clear with our audience, since this is a medium of the ear, this is not the noble gas neon. This is NEOM with an M. For
Yes,
mother.
it is not Genesis Evangelion. It is simply Neom Chomsky, the great writer
and associate of Jeffrey Epstein.
and associate of Jeffrey Epstein.
So this is the
Jeffrey Epstein would have loved Neom, though. I mean,
it would have to exist.
Jeffrey Epstein, you would have loved neon.
It would have had to have existed for him to love it. The architect says NEOM is founded on a sustainable approach. It's energy neutral. It's carbon neutral. The world needs to see how we can develop positive solutions for us to live in. Every building that is designed will be designed in respect and in balance with nature and the landscape. So they have the Adventure Hotel, the Oasis Hotel that have mineral gardens, hanging gardens, observation decks, rooftop pools. And all of this is they are creating these 3 luxury hotels in this unspoiled valley on the basis that in the last century, architecture has been against nature, polluting cities, people, and the air. Our work is to again find the friendship with nature. Design a building is a journey from dreams to the reality is the most difficult part. To which I would say, yes, your Brunello Cucinelli like luxury hotel in the middle of like the Gulf of Aqaba, made entirely of mirrors and staffed by apparently nobody. Yes, that is going to be very difficult to go from dreams to reality.
It's going to be a challenge. Well, I think this might be a good point then to sort of take a step, I guess, up or back and look at the question of what is NEOM, right?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. NEOM is the future.
Thank you.
You know how Saudi Arabia has a quite large amount of money?
I've heard of this, yeah.
And you know how after basically at what some might consider to be one of the history's more rambunctious family reunions at like the Four Seasons Riyadh.
Yes.
Right? Mohammed bin Salman, the
Crown Prince, right?
The Crown Prince and millennial putz.
Yes.
Who is in charge of?
He's got so many ideas.
Yeah. He loves an idea.
He's an ideas man.
He loves an idea, and if you say his ideas are bad, then you get very acquainted with the inside of a Samsonite.
Right. Just ask Jamal Khashoggi.
Yeah, Mohammed bin Salman has for a long time had a lot of ideas about what Saudi Arabia should be like, and Saudi Arabia has been asking itself for about 50 years the question of what do we do when the oil money runs out?
Right.
Right. This is what has been obsessing the people of the sort of political leadership of Saudi Arabia. This resulted in them creating like their various kinds of like sovereign wealth funds. And there is actually like a quite like legitimate economic reason to have a sovereign wealth fund is to prevent a phenomenon called Dutch disease.
Oh no!
No, it's
is it cystic fibrosis?
Oh god!
Where basically, if your whole economy depends on exporting a valuable commodity, you will basically have a lot of like local inflation. And your currency deflation, excuse me, your currency will become very valuable and difficult to use locally. So with a sovereign wealth fund, you buy assets denominated in foreign currencies, so you keep your currency moving. It's not just people trying to buy it, which then makes your currency more expensive, which makes your stuff harder to transact in.
Norway also does this, right?
Yeah.
Similarly,
because they're also an oil.
It's oil, right.
But you can do it with like different countries will have them for like mining and stuff. They're loaded with corruption, but like that's the basic reason to have a sovereign. One of the basic reasons to have a sovereign wealth fund.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Saudis have like long done this, but because every Saudi leader is like an inbred Byzantine like climbing weirdo, there's been lots of infighting over who controls what's the direction of the country going to be, and it really what matters is will the favored cousin seize control of the levers of power, no matter how daft their ideas are.
This is pretty memorably sent up in Hitman 3. There is the level in Dubai where there's this guy who's like bitching about his cousins and he's opening this skyscraper. And this is a very clear like shot across the bow of all of the Gulf
there's
countries.
a video that we watch that we'll talk about later in this episode that has this rendering that people are walking through that looks like the cloud sculpture in Hitman 3.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is this video came out just a couple of months ago.
Right.
Long after Hitman 3 was released.
That's the cube.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually not NEOM.
Oh,
that's a different mega project.
No.
Oh no.
So what happens, right, is that after Mohammed bin Salman takes over, he puts his own stamp on Saudi Arabia's investment strategy. Now, the way to understand Mohammed bin Salman is that he's what if a world leader had the personality of Turtle from Entourage.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah! It is my partner has watched every episode of Entourage, and we tried to start a rewatch. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm so sorry. I cannot do this.
So he's easily buffaloed by get rich quick schemes, which is hilarious when you're Mohammed bin Salman.
Right. No, he doesn't need more money.
How about this? Get diversified quick.
Right.
Basically. And so he is someone who the only economy the only global economy he's really ever known is the everything asset boom of like 2010 onward. And so what he has done is he has directed huge amounts of money into like the SoftBank Vision Fund. He's bought giant amounts of Uber. Basically, for like when Uber first started up and it was weirdly cheap, what was happening was Saudi oil money was subsidizing people taking cars instead of getting on public transport, essentially.
And a lot of the EV revolution as well is bankrolled by these sovereign wealth funds. I can't remember what there's one of the EV companies is like owned, I want to say 50% by the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund. I don't remember which one, but
but there are a bunch of other ones as well.
Right.
There's like 4 in the Emirates, again, all of which have different political bents. Some are more. Anyway, so all of that is happening. But what's really frustrating Mohammed bin Salman is he's like, I keep investing my money in tech companies that are based in San Francisco, that are based in like Cambridge, and so on and so on. Why can't Saudi Arabia have tech companies? And so he gets this like, it's like you put Richard Florida into the transporter from The Fly with I don't know, like an iPhone, basically. And he gets this idea that he needs to have a city that will attract globally talented people to invent the future in Saudi Arabia. And then is born this new province that he carves out. It's that he claims is uninhabited. It's not, by the way.
Right. We'll talk about that later.
And then he begins paying billions and billions of dollars to, again, Dutch men mostly, wearing turtlenecks and like square-rimmed thick glasses, who will then say, something like,
I was thinking about wearing my turtleneck today. I chose not to.
Who will then give him any rendering of any crazy building because he believes he needs to make what is essentially a kind of theme park for venture capitalists. But as we're going, and that's what this city is supposed to be, the world's most livable city, the most carbon neutral, the most tech enabled. He's redesigning the idea of what a city can be from the ground up by talking only to like the world's most famous architects and giving billions of dollars to McKinsey, who are willing to tell him, yeah, we can build you a new moon. Sure, why not? You can have a moon.
Our first video on this playlist is a 3-minute YouTube primer about what NEOM is.
There's OXAGON, a thriving city at the crossroads of the world, where advanced manufacturing will enable industries of the future.
Yeah.
TROJENA, a year-round
I love that he says is as though any of these exist.
Just remember to pack your skis when you visit.
Remember to pack those skis.
Or if skiing's not your thing, there's always Sindalah. One of NEOM's many beautiful islands.
Weirdly, the most, even though it's only 10% realistic, it's the most realistic.
A 500-meter high, 200-meter wide, 170-kilometer long city in the shape of, well, a line. No roads, cars, or emissions. And everything its 9 million residents could ever need within a 5-minute walk.
Oh, it's a 5-minute city.
Yeah.
The entire region will offer unparalleled access to nature and will be powered by clean energy. All within easy reach of the rest of the world.
Yeah, something very interesting that you will hear throughout all of these videos, that you will see on these ads, like, because, I still use Twitter. The only ads I see anymore are for crypto scams, Israel, and Saudi Arabian projects related to NEOM and other things. And all of the NEOM ads are in the present tense. Or, as you'll see in some of these videos, this uncomfortable relationship between the present and future tense, where they bounce back and forth between the tenses.
Well, look, Brian Cox on codeine convinced me.
What is that accent? It's like it's the city of ports.
I think it's just what happens when you have a slightly posh British guy who is in the process of dying. Like currently dying in the booth.
The main impression that I got from watching this video is that this is the opening to the next BioShock game, and there's nothing that can convince me otherwise. Because this whole thing feels like you are going to. It's a video game, right? They even talk about later they got video game designers to come in and build this thing, and you can already see the levels, right? You can already see yourself going through the line section by section and seeing what horrors have occurred with the AI just like murdering people. It screams scam too to me, like from the word go. Like there's so much money being put into this thing that clearly will never happen because they're building a giant toaster in the middle of the fucking desert.
Well, and toward the end of this clip, the narrator says, "Well, I know what you're thinking. Why does the world need NEOM?"
And then a computerized voice is like, "That's a good question," for some reason.
Here's the thing. Number one, I think who they got, Codeine Brian Cox, I think is actually, this is the guy who narrated the White Lightning trailer, the Burt Reynolds film.
Burt Reynolds is Gator McCluskey. He's a booze running, motor gunning, law breaking, love-making rebel.
And they just showed up with a dump truck of money in front of his house, and his kids elder abused him into doing the line.
Why not? I'm into it.
This is a Captain Tom situation.
Mohammed bin Salman is a big fan of White Lightning and Gator. Yeah.
So what were we all thinking at this point? I'm assuming what we were not thinking was, why does the world need NEOM, right? What were we thinking?
I was thinking, who are the 258,000 subscribers to the NEOM YouTube channel? Like, who are these people?
Well, I'll tell you who they are.
It's Riley Quinn.
Yeah, it's me.
258,000 times.
Me and my 258,000. It's me and my
279,999 best friends. Yeah.
And then Tom Walker.
Oh, okay.
Comedian Tom Walker,
very good.
a fellow NEOM head.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now me.
I think the question is, like, why does the world need NEOM? Really, what they're trying to do is say, we would like Saudi Arabia to stop being a consumer of the economies of other countries.
Sure.
And we want them to start being a consumer of our economy. Because the relationship, might be worth going over, not just the relationship of Saudi Arabia to its own oil exports, but also as to how Saudi Arabia has dealt with the fact that, like, it exports something that, when its price is high, directly slows down other economies and can affect global debt markets. It's boring, but it's worth going through, which is just that when you sell oil, right, especially if you're selling oil throughout the sort of development boom in the developing world in the second half of the 20th century, and the oil price goes up as it did after the 6-Day War, then all of a sudden, what happens is your customers are giving you more and more and more money, but you need to put that money somewhere because you can't. Your problem becomes, I have too much money.
Yeah.
And when you have that much money, that becomes an actual problem because you need to do things with it. You can't just let it sit in a current account. It has to, for example, be like loaned out in terms of debt instruments, for example.
Sure. Yeah.
This is why London is actually so central in the story of Saudi Arabia's economic development, because Saudi Arabia, it was oil also. Like, this is why Dutch disease doesn't apply perfectly, because oil is demarcated in dollars. Only recently as some countries started demarcating it in yuan, which is a big deal.
Hey there, you are listening to a preview of a premium episode of The Worst of All Possible Worlds. If you'd like to listen to the rest of this, head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/worstofall. And you can listen to not only the rest of this episode, but our entire backlog of premium episodes, bonus episodes, and if you subscribe at the $10 tier, you will get an extra episode of the podcast every single month. Again, that is patreon.com/worstofall. Hope to see you there.